Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Career Path webinar. My name is Xoliso Meko, and it is a pleasure to have you here this evening. Today, we will be sharing insights about the career paths and options available for a business analysis practitioner. The domain has evolved over time and has adapted to the ever-changing business landscape and demanding customer needs. We have seen ways of working that have new ways of working that have been introduced to advance the development and implementation of solutions. Okay, this has also presented new opportunities and new roles have emerged. A business analyst practitioner has more room today to move than ever before. Today, we will discuss the different flavors, different dimensions, and growth opportunities in the business analysis practice. Okay, next slide, please.
Sorry, Gillian, I think I'm having technical issues. The slides are not moving. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then try sharing again.
Okay. Okay, please bear with us.
Okay, they are not moving. Not sure why, because as you've seen, it's just been moving. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Oh.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Maruma.
Sorry about that. Next slide.
Yeah, the agenda.
I'm not sure what is happening. I think my PC is malfunctioning because it's not going back either.
I'll take over projection.
There we, I think
Okay.
it's moving. There we go. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, let's first confirm. Can everyone see the slides on the screen before we proceed? Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay. We have a jam-packed agenda this evening. So we're going to be talking about, the business analyst career road. We're going to be talking about, the different roles. We're going to cover the emerging roles. And we also have a panel of two speakers who will share their journeys and experiences with us from being a business analyst, to advancing to executive roles that they are occupying today. Next slide, please. The picture on the screen depicts the different roles that we find in business analysis today. Traditionally, we had more business-focused roles. That is your normal business analysis roles, which is right at the top, and business process management. And we also had roles like, systems analysts, which leaned towards a technology focused roles. But now, we have seen a change, especially now in the 21st century, where new roles are actually being introduced. And for instance, product management, it's one of the new roles that we are seeing now that has emerged, and agile is one of them. Customer experience as well, it's also a big as well. Design thinking is one of the roles as well. Cybersecurity analysis as well, and cloud application management, and also machine learning, artificial intelligence, and business intelligence. That role has been around for some time. It's not necessarily a new role. And business data analytics, it's also an emerging role. And most of these new roles are bringing a combination of digital skills, business acumen, and targeted knowledge to drive better business outcomes across industries. So if you look on the picture, we also have, you know, the different certifications as well. And this is purely IIBA certifications. Okay, thank you. You can move to the next slide. Okay. For a business analyst, you know, to strive in the 21st century, there are certain skills that are very important, and it's actually a mix of skills. It's not one or the other, but it's actually all these skills for a business analyst to be effective. The first one is, you know, a broadened cross-functional experience, and this basically talks to understanding the business and having that, you know, the business acumen, understanding the direction, or rather the goals and objectives of where the business is going. And also it includes understanding the industry within which the, you know, the business operates. So it's one of the key things that as a business analyst, to be effective, you know, we need to have. The second one is technology knowledge and management methodologies. Technology is a business enabler. It is infused in every aspect of the business, and therefore it is key as a business analyst, you know, to understand the technologies that are used within the business areas that, you know, we support. And management methodologies and tools are key as well. You know, every business analyst needs to have a set of tools, you know, that we use when we perform our function as business analysts. There's a number of them out there. You know, there's your mind mapping, there's your SWOT analysis, there's different canvases that are available out there. So I think as business analysts, it's also important to empower ourselves with the relevant methodologies and the relevant tools, you know, for us to be able to be effective. The third one is, you know, the nurturing and strengthening behavioral skills. And behavioral skills basically focuses on the skills and behaviors that allow a business analyst, you know, to earn the trust and respect of stakeholders. And that would be, you know, as business analysts, we need to act in an ethical manner. We need to complete our tasks on time. Time management is very key. And also deliver to the expected standard and quality. And also we need to be able to adjust to the changing needs and circumstances. And I think we have seen, even with this COVID as well, that we needed to adapt. And that is also one of the key skills as a business analyst. We need to be able to adapt and have resilience as well. The fourth one is, you know, certification and training. You know, it's important as business analysts to continue improving ourselves, to keep abreast with what is happening in the industry trends, empower ourselves with knowledge and the certifications. And particularly for business analysts, we've seen a couple of certifications that IIBA offers. Those are world recognized certifications. So it's important as business analysts to keep learning and growing and empowering ourselves with the relevant skills. The last one that we have, it's, you know, honing and developing leadership skills. You know, by virtue of being a business analyst, you are a leader. We drive change, you know, to solve business problems, and therefore it's important that we continuously hone and develop our leadership skills. You know, we engage with different stakeholders at different levels, and therefore it's key that we develop our leadership skills. Next slide, please. Okay, what we have on the screen here, it's, the career path table. Basically, here we're just displaying the possibilities, that are available for a business analyst to actually transition from, or rather grow, from a junior business analyst to, up to executive level. And this evening we have our panelists, who have started as junior business analysts up to that senior level. So what we have here, it's that we have three streams, basically: the technology stream, and the business focus stream, and the customer experience stream. On the far left, it's basically a depiction of from junior to middle to senior. You can start at the service desk, that is an IT focused role, and you can grow into becoming a service request analyst. You can become an enterprise architect, and there's also other roles as well within the technology space in which you can grow. Some of them we've reflected in the previous slides. And the business focus, it's your junior, your business analyst type roles, and you can move from junior, advanced to senior business analyst, or even business process analyst, or business architect roles. There's quite a number of room to move, and eventually you could actually advance and transition to becoming at C-level. And the same applies for the customer experience type roles. You can start as a UX designer, and these are the newer roles that have emerged now. And you can move from junior and transition all the way up to the C-level. Next slide, please. Okay, I will be handing over to Morongwa, my colleague, who will be talking us through the emerging roles within business analysis. Thank you. Over to you, Morongwa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that overview, Xoli. That was very insightful. Good evening, colleagues. As Xoli has mentioned, my name is Morongwa Kanye, and I'll be basically taking you through, what is the role of a business analyst, but Xoli has really explained it in a bit more detail. But what we're going to do as well is to take you through, what are some of the roles that a business analyst can transition into. But just for the purpose of this session, we only went with two, which is a data analyst role and a product ownership role. So basically we'll be looking at all roles, what are the differences between the two, what skills do you need to have for each particular role? How do you transition as a business analyst into those roles? And lastly, what are some of the certifications that you need to look at? So typically, Xoli has mentioned with the business analysis, it's a very flexible role. If you can see, I believe most of us that are here are either business analysts or they've been business analysts before, but we've been, we're all working for different industries, different projects. Some are more technical than others. Some are more process oriented. Some are more business savvy. But typically a business analyst is responsible for the implementation and support of the business information systems across multiple departments. They are able to identify problems and opportunities within the company, and ultimately they provide solutions that help achieve the business goals. How they go about doing that typically would be, a business analyst would consult with organizations, management, and maybe the staff or customers, just in order to understand their needs, goals, and requirements. From that, they would design and recommend solutions. They would sometimes write business cases. Most of the time, business analysts would oversee developments, including the design. But on a day-to-day basis, the typical task would be to create user stories, but this is more in an agile environment, of which I believe, most companies, that's where we're heading, or that's where we at. they map process flow diagrams, they conduct user acceptance testing. So just in a nutshell, I would say business analysts have a strategic position within the organization, focused on solving problems of the organization and coming up with a solution. There is a term, I don't know if you guys know it, they say it's a gaishido, and that is the act of getting shit done. They normally refer to product owners as gaishidos, but I still say even business analysts, they are the real gaishidos. We just get things, get shit done. Sorry for the pun. And the educational background, research says typical qualifications you need to have would be degree in business administration, economics, or finance. But in my experience, I've worked with many people coming from different educational, background, not even within this space. But again, that just goes to show how flexible and dynamic this discipline is. Next up, we move to the, data analyst, and then we try to see what is the difference between a data analyst and a business analyst. So what data analysis is, it's basically the process of gaining information and insights from a data set through various analytical techniques. Where that came from, it's really their ability to analyze, interpret, and visualize large amount of data. They give insights and they provide that to managers in order for the business or managers to be able to make better decisions. And so high level would say, a data analyst, they would be looking at mining, interpreting, and visualizing the data within the organization so that the stakeholders can understand and use it to make strategic business decisions. Again, typical educational backgrounds or qualifications that they need, it would be a degree in statistics, computer science, or mathematics. But again, from experience, we've got many people without these qualifications, but through the experience and upskilling and doing the right, certifications, they are great data analysts. And then high level, what is the difference between a data analyst and a business analyst? A data analyst is more technically inclined with programming and an analytics experience, but this is more related to data, whereas a business analyst is more business focused. Data analysts would typically focus on the data itself, they interpret it and look at what it might be telling the business. So providing that insight to business. And with the business analysts, they would take that and their focus would be, on the implication the data analysis insights have on the business and how to solve those issues. So basically they take those insights provided by the data analyst and they use it to come up with solutions and solve problems. And what are some of the typical skills that a data analyst needs to have? They need to have a strong mathematical ability. They need to be proficient in programming, particularly languages like SQL and Python. Database management is one of the things they need to understand. And very key, they need to be able to analyze and identify the trends or pattern within the large data sets, because normal people or normal business people cannot do that. And from that, they need to be able to derive insights from the data using statistical techniques. And then, how does a business analyst transition, into a data analyst role? One, they'll need to learn to code, like I mentioned, Python and SQL. They need to refresh their statistical knowledge. You'll need to develop data visualization skills, and most importantly, complete necessary qualifications in order to build your skill set. And what is the certification that we have within IIBA? It's the CBDA, which is Certification in Business Data Analytics. And then lastly, we move to the product ownership role. So really a product owner is someone who's able to manage the development teams, a product owner would typically need to be able to understand the bigger picture of the business, but also understand the details of the features or the product. In a nutshell, normally they have to understand the vision. From understanding that vision, they would establish the plan. That's where they will put together like a product backlog. And then from that, they would continuously manage the product backlog. They would define the stories with the teams and, keep on communicating with the team and, and the right people and all the stakeholders. And then high level, the differences between a product owner as well as a business analyst. Product owners are the real decision, they are the decision makers, within the project, because they're responsible for prioritizing, etc. Whereas a business analyst would facilitate the decision-making process. Another one would be a product owner is required to make quicker decisions, not to be focused on building consensus, and the business analyst would be building consensus. And then another one, the last one would be really the product owner normally focuses on the strategic results of the project for the organization, whereas the business analyst would focus more on the technical demands and constraints of the project. However, even with that, I'll still say business analysts would work hand in hand with the product owner that on that one. The business analyst would sometimes have to wear that hat, if I can put it that way. And what are the key skills that a product owner needs to have? They need to have a high level knowledge of agile software development, understand how agile works. They need to have experience in project management in general, not necessarily just agile. They need to have the ability to define any and all user stories. Yes, this is more the function for the business analyst, but the product owner needs to be able to understand the user stories and probe and make sure that it makes sense. They need to have an understanding of computer science principles, or I would say more like they need to be technical savvy and not, so that they understand the technical constraints if they're there, because they need to work together with the developers, etc. But they also need to be business savvy because they need to understand the business and the business function. So they need to have both skills. And then problem solving, is really key because the product owner manages the entire team and they need to be able to solve complex problems of the project. And lastly, they need to have an experience with managing the teams within agile space. And then last one, how does a business analyst really transition into a product ownership role? You need to start by building relationships with the product management function, as well as the business leaders of the team. Again, as business analysts, this is something that we have, this is very key, but you also need to learn and show that you can understand the end-to-end development of the product. You need to learn and show that you can understand how the product manifests. Remember that vision that we spoke about, that is very key. You also need training and self-study on the vision and road mapping from the agile perspective. And then the important one, which is what I highlighted, if you know you want to be a product owner, it is very important for you to start building your personal brand on how you are perceived as a BA. So, because when you manage those skills, it's very important to know what people think of you, and that's the only way that you can succeed. You also need to look at the challenging behaviors and mental models, understand people, because by doing this, it would help you navigate the business and be able to engage with many stakeholders in an attempt to solve those problems. And then lastly, you'll need to complete the necessary qualification to boost your CV as well as your skill sets. And then what is that certification? So there is a certificate in product ownership analysis, which is the CPOA certificate. And that brings me to the conclusion. of the differences between a business analyst, a product owner, and the data analysis. But I'll still say, as Xoli has mentioned, business analysis is an evolving role. It's a very flexible role. You can do anything that you want as a business analyst. There's opportunities to upskill on anything. So even though there's data analysis and product ownership, you can still learn and harness these skills even as a business analyst. You don't really need to transition into that role if you don't want to, but you need to understand how data analysis work, how product ownership works, etc. That is all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will now be handing over to my colleague Sonia, who will be taking you through and interviewing our guests. But yeah, I'll just hand over to Sonia. This is an exciting part of the evening, I believe.
Thought leaders. Our guest speakers have certainly become that, but they started from a humble background. Nondumiso is first up. She is the head of products for ABSA Home Loans, and she has been part of the ABSA Group Home Loans executive management team in South Africa. She's also currently the head of product and responsible for driving and leading the product team throughout the delivery of product and digital solutions for the home loan business segment, with the aim of transforming the business, not only driving it for business growth that is sustainable, making sure the customer experience is improved, but ensuring that when you apply for a home loan product, it's solution-driven, competitive, and profitable. She has over 13 years of experience in the digital and IT discipline, and 8 years in the financial services industry. Wow. So, Nondumiso's qualifications is a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, with majors in information systems and marketing. And she's also a certified product manager through the Association of International Product Marketing and Management. She's had great exposure in sales management within the digital channel, and also as her role and capacity as digital sales manager and online sales product manager. Wow. But more than anything, Nondumiso has told me she's a passionate mother. Nondumiso, it's really a privilege tonight to meet you, because this was the first time that we had a chance to meet. I would love to ask you a couple of questions and find out how you specifically have gone from realizing that you have a passion for business analysis and how you grew that into the phenomenal businesswoman that you are and the thought leader that you are today. Welcome, Nondumiso.
Thank you, Sonia. I hope you can all hear me, and I'm humbled to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
It is really wonderful to see you. Tell me, Nondumiso, you've kind of told us how long you've worked in the industry of financial business, but how long have you been a core analyst?
So it's quite an interesting story, Sonia, because I started out immediately after I graduated. I started as a business analyst, and I was quite fortunate in that, through the degree at the time, there was exposure into what business analysis is. And, I developed a passion for it. In fact, maybe let me not say develop the passion. I guess I always had the passion for unpacking problems and coming up with solutions, even way back, even at school. And I guess, I've always had the heart for it. And I had the opportunity when I started off and spent a couple of years as a business analyst in the IT space.
So it sounds like from school days already, you knew that you wanted to solve things, and this was just the natural progression path for you. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember back in the days, but now if one's going to know my age, we talk way back, even before there were tablets and smartphones. And you know, I was very fortunate to have had the passion to get involved at the time, Expo for Young Scientists. It was funded by ESCOM at the time, and I believe it's probably still going on at this stage. So I started off there, and it was something that absolutely grew, you know, as I progressed in my studies and also in my career.
And as a young lady, knowing that you like to solve problems, what did you then end up choosing to study in order to fill that need?
Yeah, so the BCom was a natural one for me, particularly information systems. I did spend a lot of time assessing the market at the time to understand where the real need was in the market from a career perspective. And information systems at the time, those that will remember, it's only a few of us that are that old. The Y2K project was a big thing. Um, and you know, it was a space that I really thought I'd probably have a natural fit. And luckily for me, I mean, I had that exposure in the BCom degree itself with information systems, because it gave us exposure to different modules, you know, from coding, database management, understanding security, and then actual core business analysis itself. And I knew, just having had exposure to all of those areas, I knew that I had to continue in the business analysis route.
I've got to say, you do not look like someone that has worked on a Y2K project. You look far too young for that. Tell me, what has been the most valuable investment in your career in analysis? Was it your education or was it your experience?
Sonia, you know, that's quite an interesting question, because I think, you know, both of those pillars are quite important. They play a different role in building you up as you grow in your career. I do think, you know, the education for me, I see as a foundation. I am in home loans, so I'll talk the analogy of building a home. You know, education is your foundation. It gives you, you know, the ability, or rather, it develops your ability to learn new concepts, grasp concepts, hopefully apply them if you get that exposure to apply those concepts. But also education gives you the ability to consume a vast amount of information and make sense out of it. So that plays a critical role. Experience is now building the top structure, which in my view is the house. You know, I was quite fortunate in that I worked for organizations that really gave me that experience and phenomenal exposure. And I was lucky to have met phenomenal colleagues as well. Back in the days, I talk here many years ago, I spent 3 years at Arivia.com. Post that, you know, I spent 6 to 7 years at Discovery. And within the Discovery group, I got exposure in the digital space. And already back in the days, we were talking design concepts and usability many years ago. And I got exposure to different areas of the group. So vitality business, the life business, the health business. And I guess that exposure, you know, taught me how to quickly pivot and how to understand different contexts and how to appreciate business strategy, because as a business analyst, you've got to understand what the business wants and why they want what they want. You have to ask the questions, you have to ask the whys, so that when you engage with developers, I was quite lucky. I worked with a very great team of architects and developers and spent a lot of time to understand their worlds as well. You know, having been at Discovery, I'm at ABSA now, a huge organization, a huge African bank, having spent a number of years I've had the same exposure from an experience point of view, from digital into business, and now sitting in the mortgage business, and being able to experience the business cycles and what they actually mean to a business. So I've got to say, Sonia, both education and experience are both critical. They play different roles, in my view, at least from my experience.
I can see that exposure came up in your answer a couple of times. What skills did that exposure help you to develop from early on? What were the skills initially and then maybe even recently that you then started building on from a business analysis capability perspective? We know that you're very kind and you speak beautifully. We're not talking about those skills, but we're focusing on how did you grow your analysis skills from start to the point where you are now?
Absolutely. You know, I'm gonna make it very basic. You know, my skills grew as a result of, you know, working with different businesses and obviously fine-tuning the skill of problem solving. You know, being able to work with I guess vast amount of information to extract value out of that in order to define solutions. You know, and also paying special attention to detail. That's where I started off as a business analyst. But as I progressed, you know, your skills, and still today, I find, you know, has been mostly around being able to navigate business complexity. And also having the ability to engage stakeholders, because you can get, you know, a problem statement, but often the problem statement is not well defined. And you've got to be able to ask the right questions. And, you know, now it's really about asking the right questions and being able to help those around as a team to answer and build on the right things. I think also it's also been about being able to pivot with ease. And I say pivot with ease because often, you know, as a business analyst, and if I had to look at myself today and many years ago, looking at myself now, if somebody had to tell me, Nons, there's a business problem that's related to a fundamentally different business with a different context, you know, my heart doesn't stop. We'll go straight into it and pivot into marketing and then suddenly into media engagement. So I guess as a business analyst, you know, fortunately for me, you know, I've had the exposure and I've, you know, my skills have been sharpened around the ability to pivot and operate in different contexts, often sometimes as a leader and you know, sometimes as working from the back and watching others develop solutions like your product owner or your business analysts.
We can really learn from you. I have 30 seconds left, but 2 questions. So very quickly, as a mom, a passionate mom, how do you maintain work-life balance, Nondumiso?
You know, work-life balance, you know, is not that easy. But to be quite honest, in my view, it's about having the support structure. I've got the support structure at home. I am a single mom and I'm still able to deliver like anyone else because I love what I do as well. I think when you love what you do, it doesn't drain you. So you don't get home feeling grumpy.
Definitely.
It doesn't drain you. In fact, it feels
it radiates
passionate.
From you. Yes.
You know, so I'm quite fortunate to be in the space that I'm in, and also fortunate that, you know, I get to drive product strategy and right up to execution to commercial management of that. So being able to see the end to end, you know, keeps me fueled and yeah.
Lastly, and I've got 10 seconds. Give us a one-liner on what do you think anybody here can do to improve their career prospects in analysis or applying analysis in their career. Just
Sonia,
a one-liner.
It's hunger. That's all I'm going to say. It just be hungry. Be hungry. Because if that hunger is there, you know, hardship and complexity are never going to be the stumbling block. Just be hungry.
You're never too old to be hungry, hey, Nondumiso?
Never too old.
Which is why I unfortunately, I wish we had more time, but I have to go over to our second speaker and an old friend of yours. I believe that you used to cross the corridors at Discovery and other places as an example. And now he's the MD of a company called Webtonic. And we're going to cross over to asking him a couple of questions too. Nondumiso, thank you so much. It was so encouraging and so life learning to be able to chat to you tonight. Next slide.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much.
So who is Rhyn? Rhyn is the MD of a solution, Webtonic Solutions, a company that specializes in designing and developing software solutions around business needs and anything basically to do with software design, delivery, and maintenance. He does also maintain all the long-standing partnerships for Webtonic clients. And over the past 11 years, he's grown it from a one-stop software development company to a phenomenal delivery team. He started his career in business analysis in the early 90s. Oops, I think I'm giving his age away. And at the same time, while specializing in software development, he grew phenomenal projects across a UX, project delivery, system customer experience. Oh, just a mouthful. I've been very fortunate to work with Rhyn. On the personal side, he is a passionate trainer. He started the company as a fundo that is key critical, focused on helping people from with his partner Neville van Dieterkom, to make sure that they help people that can't afford or don't have the ability or don't have the funding to get essential digital literacy training. On top of that, he also is a passionate husband and father with huge Christian values, and always such a joy to speak to. So Rhyn, now that I've said such a mouthful about you with all the things that you've achieved, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sonia. Thanks for this opportunity. Great to talk to everybody.
Wonderful. So tell me, Rhyn, how long have you been in the business of business analysis?
So I counted the other day. It's about 26 years, on and off. You know, just looking at the previous slides that were shown, I've probably crisscrossed along a lot of those disciplines along my journey, as I've needed to solve problems and grow in my experience. But okay. Yeah, it's been quite a wonderful ride.
And what did you study before you went into business analysis?
I began studying a CAIB. I don't know if anyone knows that. It's a Chartered Institute of Bankers. Okay. I started in the bank and then went on to do my BCom in informatics and strategic management.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the money to study full time, so I did it part time. It took me a while to complete, but got there in the end.
Wow. So that was really important for you to expand your education. But what would you say was more important in your career that contributed to it, the education or the experience that you gained?
So I think, just to say that the education I felt was my ticket to the game. Mm-hmm. It got me through the door, it got me to the interview. But once I got the job that I was after, or the opportunity that I was after, I found the experience to be vitally important. And an experience, I would count it as a lot of the failures that I had actually experienced in my career.
Really?
And as well as the people that I met along the way, which I learned from. So mentors and colleagues that taught me things that I either didn't understand or needed to know. But I guess the opportunities and the experience that I've had in my career have also put me in good stead, just to give me different perspectives on life, but also taken me on different journeys and paths throughout my career.
That is so interesting. Very few leaders will admit that failures have helped them grow. How did you find that the failures you experienced, the people you were exposed to, the opportunities you had, what kind of skills did that develop for you? Tell me a little bit about the skills early on, and what skills did you acquire along the way?
Yeah, so I'll talk about two quickly. The first one was I was a business analyst working at Standard Bank in my early days, and I was responsible for testing a release. I don't know if anyone remembers Tony Bank by phone. It was a dial pad banking application before the days of mobile phones. Anyway, I was probably in my early 20s, and as any youngster, I didn't take the testing as seriously as I should have, and I missed a bug in my testing, in my user acceptance testing, and this change went live, and and this, we're talking about the 90s now, early 90s. It cost the bank about 250,000 Rand in revenue going the wrong way. But my manager called me into my office and said, "You need to fix it." And I spent probably the next 2-3 weeks trying to recoup all that money from where it went. And it taught me an important lesson about paying attention at the right time, and being responsible as well, I guess, for the responsibility that you're given in your job. So it really, I guess, made me stand up and think about the detail that us as business analysts or test analysts need to put into our job, and that we shouldn't always think that the next person's going to catch the problem. You have a responsibility in the job that you do to ensure that you can do it to the best of your ability and quality point of view. And then it
really reminds me, sorry, on that point, of a fantastic book I'm reading about accountable leaders. And it sounds like that's something you developed very early in your career.
Yeah, and it's stuck with me throughout my life, and everything that I did. I just thought that, if I'm working on something, there's no one else to actually ensure that it's correct. The responsibility is on you to ensure that you can give your best, and deliver your best, all the time. And then the second was we were asked to build a web application on top of an existing green screen host system, if I can call it that. And we went and we built it, but it never really performed to the satisfaction of the users. And I realized afterwards, reflecting on it, that we built the system, we built the technology, but we didn't actually ever take the user into account in building the system. And I guess that brought in my curiosity around user experience design as a business analyst, in making sure that you put the user first, as well as, I guess, the technology and the business. But it kind of changed my mindset at that point in trying to understand what is success for the user first, and then looking at the technology, and not just taking technology and trying to digitize a process or some piece of technology for businesses.
And tell me, Rhyn,
sorry?
And tell me, Rhyn, I was going to ask you, in terms of learning those, how did those skills now serve you being the MD of the company?
Well, I think when you, I guess when you're working in a corporate, you maybe have one boss. I think when you start your own business, you have 50 bosses. What I've learned is trying to instill those disciplines within the team, around being client-centric, but also being disciplined and detailed in the work that you do, and also being very proud of the work that you deliver to your customers, because you're actually delivering a brand, and it's a reputation that you're projecting to your customers and to your to the world actually. So we're a proudly South African business, but we're starting to do more and more work globally. And it's important that you have your foundation and your fundamentals in place, so that you can actually ensure that quality and delivery is there, because reputation can be destroyed in 5 seconds. And it is a responsibility for me to ensure that we are able to deliver those quality services to our customers.
Wonderful. Sure. So that really has become your ethos in guiding you run the company. If I may then ask, how do you, having 3 lovely ladies in your life, how do you manage to balance having a big company with a lot of people reporting and depending on you, and still having a family that you need to see to?
So, as an entrepreneur, it's difficult to switch off. You're always thinking about new opportunities and things that worry you in the evenings and early mornings. Luckily, we have a rule that there's no business that's spoken around the dinner table. So we always have dinner around the table at night. And I think my daughters and my wife are the barometers of me becoming too workaholic. I'm very passionate about what I do. So, as Nondumiso said, passion for something, you don't actually feel like you're working. But it does start to consume you, and there are some boundaries that you do need to put in place to protect your mind and to protect your body. So I think good exercise is one way to de-stress. So during lockdown or just after lockdown, we started boxing, and I also play football for a local five-a-side team to try and get some exercise. But I think
hopefully you're not going to box your employees.
No.
Out of line.
It's things that just take your mind off, take your focus off things that you're worrying about.
I have to, unfortunately, I've got 30 seconds left, and one more question I'd love to ask you. How do you see, you have a robust team of product owners, very passionate product owners that work for you. How would you recommend anybody in whatever career level that they are in right now to reach out and grow?
So I think one thing that's I just want to say is that keep asking why. So what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Try and get to that core problem that you're trying to solve. Too many times I've seen business analysts just accept what they've received and document those requirements. But I'm passionate to say that I think in order to grow is to really try and get to that core problem that you're trying to solve. And there are a lot of tools to go around to do that. But once you've rooted yourself in that core problem, I think it becomes a lot easier to actually solution for that problem. That's the first thing. And then secondly, when you're solutioning, always remember that it's good to ideate and get as many solution or ideas as possible before you actually narrow it down to one particular solution that you're going to go with. Because I've also seen in my career, people get into a room and try and solution too soon. And then they get fixated on the first solution that comes up, or the first solution that the loudest person in the room actually articulates. And then you almost sold down the river with the wrong solution that's going to not solve the problem for your client. So I think
be solution driven. So Rhyn, just a quick comment from one of the attendees. They said they love your honesty, as it shows that failure do happen, but we need to learn from it. So thank you for leaving that. Thank you for leaving that. And then Inho also said, true, and not many fields provide that kind of flexibility. Like Mr. Rhyn just said, we are here to solve problems. So thank you so much for leaving those impressions with everyone. I'm so sorry. I would love to have another 30 minutes to speak to Nondumiso and Rhyn. It feels like I've gotten to know you both very, very well and learned so much. But we do need to use our last few minutes to provide an opportunity for some questions and honest answers. So we are going to go back to the questions and answers section, and we are going to see who these questions need to be direct to. So I've picked up already that there were, and maybe Nondumiso and Rhyn, I will alternate between the two of you. Nondumiso, the first question is from someone that says, I define my ideal career title as a business analyst, majoring in information system design. In your experience, is this accurate and attainable?
Absolutely, Sonia, it is accurate and attainable. I mean, I started off, I mean, within the BCom degree, you know, it had, as I mentioned earlier on, the development component, it had security, it had databases, all of that. And it's certainly attainable. So I'd say follow your dream and stick with it.
Wonderful, thank you. Rhyn, this one to you. This is another attendee said, why do so many BA vacancies require a software programming background? There is a debate within the BA circles if it's really needed or not, especially looking at the responsibilities. They are trying to get into business analysis and they studied for it, but not successful as yet. One of the reasons they feel is the software programming background. What's your viewpoint on this?
I don't have a software programming background, so okay. I'm not sure where that comes from. I think maybe the one area of software development is a logical approach to solving problems. So maybe what people are looking for is an ability for you to critically look at a problem and be able to break it down and solve it. So maybe it's a way of thinking that people are looking for business analysts to be able to grow. I think just on the side, I think, you know, my view, and that's why I'm quite involved in Isifundo, is that I think having some form of coding ability is really helpful, especially in the 21st century. I think you're kind of exposed more and more to software in your everyday life. But I think the other thing I just want to say is that where in my career I've had a look at is really to understand the audiences that I'm communicating to. Okay. So where I'm communicating to developers, get to know how to communicate to developers, understand what they're looking for from your specifications and also stakeholders. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna communicate to dev, find out what he wants to be able to build his software efficiently. Find out from your business how you can communicate the requirements or the problem-solving ability. So that's my advice.
Thank you. And then Nondumiso, we have a question for you. Does your current role involve more design and creation, or is it more management?
So my roles, actually 50% is management strategy, it's the EXCO component. The other 50% is managing the actual product portfolio, which includes portfolio owners, it includes working with designers. I don't necessarily work directly with designers, but part of the work that we do is ensuring that our products go through a design process that we go through and check and challenge the customer experience, check and challenge how it's built, whether colleagues are enabled. So I'm quite fortunate that it's a combination of all of that, and I work with great colleagues that have great exposure in that.
Thank you very much. Rhyn, back to you. Our last question. Must product owners be technical or have a handle on IT processes? The attendee says, I really don't think so, although it helps the IT delivery team.
I think it won't hurt to be a bit technical. So I've played a bit of a product owner role in my career, and I haven't really understood the low-level technology, but I've understood the concepts of technology. So the various building blocks of other system that's being built, just so that I can almost be involved in the discussion or be able to articulate certain needs to various stakeholders. So I think a level of understanding would be probably a lot helpful for a product owner. But I think product owners are also responsible for, like you said, prioritization and driving the team and making those decisions. So to make a decision, you don't have to necessarily, I guess there's the consensus part, but maybe you can get supporting input into making the right decision.
Wow, thank you so much, Rhyn. That is all we have time for. We did allow for 2 minutes for the session to overrun. We apologize for that, but there was so much rich content we wanted to share, and two amazing thought leaders and leaders in our industry that are fine examples of how to grow yourself to that level, that we really want to thank you this evening for attending. And all additional questions that might be raised, we will ask you to please direct to the IIBA email address. I'm handing back to the speaker so that they can confirm with you who you can share those questions with. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Nondumiso, and thank you, Rhyn, so much for joining us tonight.
Absolute pleasure. I hope it helped.
It did.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Yeah, so before everyone goes, I would like to just thank everyone for attending the webinar. And obviously, we'll take this opportunity to thank the team members, especially Morongwa, Koliswa, Tapiso, Sonia, and Saboka. I think it was really a great team effort. And a special note of thanks to Nondumiso and Rhyn for taking time out of the hectic schedule and sharing their journey with us and giving us some really good advice and tips. And I'm sure many of us would have inspired tonight to excel in our career. And lastly, as Sonia said, if there are any outstanding questions, or if anybody would like to ask us, so I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and you can send those questions to communications@southafrica.iiba.org. And thanks again, and have a wonderful night. Maybe you will see some of our future events coming up from IIBA South Africa chapter. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night. Cheers.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Sleep well.